Start. Start.
TE V795.
Manje-ke uhlobo ke lwale cellphone kwakuyi-ZTE V795.
The IMEI number of the handset 86330213762214.
Manje-ke inombolo ke yala lamakhalekhukhwini i-IMEI number yakhona u-86 33 72 02 13 76 215.
The serial number, they didn't complete the serial number. Cell phone number, it's 827044358.
Manje-ke lana-ke i-number yala makhalekhukhwini kwaku-82 704 4358.
The name of the suspect, Kelly Kumalo.
Manje-ke igama-ke likamsolwa lapha uKelly Khumalo.
The date of birth and ID number, they also leave out, they didn't complete it.
Manje-ke sengifakwe ukuthi wazalwa nini i-ID yakhe.
Offense, murder.
Manje-ke icala kukhulunywa ngalo elokubulala.
Investigation officer, Lieutenant Colonel Neertling. That time he was involved.
Kuthiwa owayemseshi ngaleso sikhathi kwakuyi-Lieutenant
TE V.
Good afternoon, masterminds. We are back again on this beautiful Monday. And we are proceeding where we left off. We are not going to say a lot of what happened in court today. There's a topic for another day. If we get a chance in between, we will just maybe mention some things there. But Njabs is back. We are proceeding with the IMEI numbers in the section 205 of Kelly Khumalo. Njabs, welcome again back. You played a video for us there, so can you just explain to us what is happening in that video?
All right. Good afternoon, Suspect. I'm feeling much better today.
You look better.
Yes, yeah. I took a bit time to deal with the flu. Now, the video that I played was the video where Steyn was reading out information that that were downloaded from the phones. You must remember that when he read out that shit, that information in that clip, it's the information that may have been captured by either Captain Mushwana or Colonel Nettling when the exhibits were actually being taken in there. Now, you'll hear that in some other instances, that IMEI number is called differently, but will work with the same IMEI number that it's called. And then you're going to see when we actually are checking it, we'll check that the IMEI number, it is valid. So Suspect, I did write down the IMEI number basically. So we'll actually I'm going to share the screen, and then I'm actually going to go to the screen for the IMEI checker. And then we're gonna actually try to do that. Now, let me just do that. The IMEI number was 8633720213762114. There's some instances where it says 215, but then we then click. We'll see that this IMEI number, it will show it exists. It does say that this is a phone for a ZTE V795. Basically, when you listen to this thing, that's the correct type of model that is allocated to this IMEI number. That's this thing now. Blackmailing status, because this phone is a phone that they said it was ZTE phone that was downloaded that belonged to Kill. Now, when we then look at the type of this phone, when we look what this phone looked like, this phone has a features like of a Samsung. You can Google the picture of this phone, what it's looked like. Let's say copy. Then I'm not sure. Do you still see my screen, Suspect? Sis Pat, can you still see my screen?
I can still see your screen, yes.
Yes. Then let's say paste this thing, and then we say image. Let's see on the Google. Look what we're seeing here. Isn't this phone?
Can you, because I don't see the Google screen. I'm still on the iMay screen.
All right.
Oh.
So now let me share again. Sorry. Now, if we're sharing again, you're gonna see now I'm gonna take you to a Google screen where I've actually Googled image. That's the type of the phone. Remember, I copied that ZTE 750 image. Now, can you see? Now, when you look at this phone now, you see this confusion about whether was this a phone that was there in the house when Musa was taking photos, ZTE phone, and let's go down. When you look at the iMay type of things, then we look at the iMay, check the type on the models of the phone. This now we can go on this site again for that, but we've already done the check. We've verified that the iMay number does exist. We can just copy it here and then copy, and then we can come here and then we can actually paste it here. You see, full digit correctly. Let's just check here. No, it does.
No, there's another, yes.
Yes. So I think it's the spacing here because
yeah, it looks as if because there's a number, yeah, I think it's the spacing.
Yeah, 86227626114.
There's one number left, which is yes.
Yes. Yeah, let's just see now. There you go. You see, we've captured the number correctly. That's the number that's being called out. It's a Grand X2 type of series. This is the T type of model of the phone, and that's it. But then now, strange enough, when we look at the this is the number, this is the phone, basic type of phone that they saying Kelly was carrying in 2014.
Wow.
Now,
according to that iMay number.
Yes, that's what they
caught. Yes.
Yes. So that iMay number that was read out in court, it's the correct one. It's part of the list of phone that Captain Mushwana downloaded. But Mushwana also tells us that there was a BlackBerry phone that also belongs to Kelly. Now, if then Kelly had a BlackBerry phone, which number did the BlackBerry phone had? Because if it's this number, because Stein does say that 85 number was actually inserted on the ZTE on that phone. So what number then was being used by BlackBerry? Because now at least on the two phones that with the evidence that we've had, that Kelly, at least there was a BlackBerry phone that we know it belonged to Kelly. And then now we know that there is that ZTE phone, which Stein tells us about that had Kelly's number.
Yes.
Now, where is the iMay number for the BlackBerry phone?
For the BlackBerry, yes.
Now, if Kelly's number was on the ZTE, I can confirm to you that in 2014, that ZTE model type was not capable of installing any BlackBerry services.
Wow. And they themselves did confirm Kelly was using a BlackBerry, not a ZTE.
Yes. But then they said Kelly had so many numbers that it didn't disclose to them. But then now when we talk about this number, that the 85, that they're saying that's the number that has the two calls that we spoke about. Now, at least according to Stein, that number was not on a BlackBerry. It was on a ZTE. Now, if Ntuli is using another Android, so Android to Android call, how will then they install BBM amongst the two Android phones and then make a BBM call?
Exactly.
So that is why, suspect, I said, it's nonsense, the issue of the calls. The calls never existed. It's completely fabrication. I can say that by putting my head on the block here, that this issue of a BlackBerry and the BBM things is fabrication. That is why Vodacom did not stand by that version. It says they've given them a PDF. That information of the BlackBerry thing does not appear on the PDF. Therefore, Vodacom distanced itself from it. But suspect, Steyn says when he came back second time, he says he actually did the changes when he was doing consultation with Baloyi. So Baloyi and Steyn are the one that cooked and fabricated this issue.
Inserted those numbers into the Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, because now, according to the evidence that Steyn led before he comes back, he said the number that ends with the 8285 of Kelly was not in a BlackBerry, it was on a ZTE phone. So now, Android to Android, where does
how did they actually come up with the BIS?
Remember the clip that we played you about Melinda?
Yes.
He said there was a WhatsApp.
Yes.
That they were checking in. So the story was a WhatsApp. Up until now, they start to realize that, hey, the WhatsApp is not going to make sure now.
Now they change the evidence again. They cook the evidence again.
Yes. So, suspect, I'm saying to the masterminds is that they told us that Kelly had a BlackBerry Kev. According to Mushwana, the phones that he downloaded, it's BlackBerry and ZTE. But then now they must tell us which number of Kelly was in a BlackBerry Kev.
In a BlackBerry.
Because we know that the 825 number, the only number that Kelly had, was on a ZTE. Then now, if it's the runaway number, it's the other 076 number or something that is with the runaway phone with the Samsung S4. They must also tell us the IMEI number of the S4 phone. What we need to know so that they can prove that they're not lying, suspect. Otherwise, if nobody, even from the defense or from anyone, can tell us the IMEI number for a BlackBerry phone that Kelly was using, as well as the number that was installed in the BlackBerry. We now know the IMEI number which we've read for the ZTE phone and the number that ends with the 825. On the runaway phone, we need the IMEI number of the runaway phone and the number so that we know that the runaway phone that was that was the number that was in it and the IT linked to that.
Nothing more.
Wait, just that. So now, that is nonsense that has happened in Ratha's court. They're lying. Now I'm going to play you a clip, which now in this clip again, suspect, it will be demonstrating. It will be demonstrating how what Mtshali
said about. Has that procedure been followed? About.
So now this clip is a cross-examination of Mshololo exposing when Mtshali confirms that the procedures were not followed. So when procedures are not followed, therefore then Mtshali should have said, my Lord, I don't know why I'm here in this court, because now I've since learned that Umangena has received an exhibit that is open. Therefore, we cannot guarantee in terms of what had happened to the exhibit from the date it was booked on the 13th up until now. So anything could have happened in that exhibit. Therefore, my Lord, case closed. Can we listen to that?
Has that procedure been followed?
Exhibit lenake okungukuthi uzele yona la enkantolo ngabe leyo ngqubo lezo inyathelo zathathwa yini
zathathwa kodwa inkinga ukuthi manje ngoba sekubekiwe la ukuthi khona izinto ezingahambi indawonye sesingathi ayigejekile kancane.
Okay.
Well, yes, that procedure was actually taken, but it was pointed out that there are certain things that are not corroborative. Then
what
we would
is
say
Uketshega?
that they've
Uketshega, let's get the explanation, the interpretation of the word Uketshega. Yes.
I guess it's good. There are things that did not take place,
There were
or
not-
the discrepancies.
There are procedures that were not followed, Mr. Mchali, am I correct?
Bunjalo ke kukhona ama-procedure angazange alandelwe.
Yebo, ngokuphambi kwami ngibona kanjalo.
Yes, what is before me, that's how I view it as well.
Okay. Right about.
Now, Sispet, I just played you a clip where Mchali is confirming. Now, with what we've seen on the case, on the Western Cape case, the interpreters, they do tend to change the record.
Yes.
Procedures are not followed. Simple as that.
Yes.
And the judge is quiet. But then now, here's another clip that actually makes us worried why the judge is quiet.
Quiet.
Where else the judge says he knew these things that were happening during the apartheid times. Listen to this clip.
For the first time I hear about lost pocketbooks. And this is not a judgment on the police, but when I was practicing in the 70s, defending so-called security legislation, victims or treason victims, when you started cross-examining the policeman, the pocketbook invariably got lost. And I'm not saying you must comment. So it's not a new story. In the 70s also, pocketbooks got lost.
The 70, they must say no, the pocketbook need last.
But there's one other issue which I want clarification. Did you yourself plant any ballistic evidence on the scene? You yourself?
Well, I don't ballistic evidence of my Kenya No. Tika mina agoko ayikho ngene ballistic engingayithatha ngayibeka khona lapha endaweni yesigameko.
And Mustolo, you with him when you say he discovered or found the fragmented pellet on the top of the cabinet.
Mhlahlo yena ha ona rule ya tholahala bullet eleng hore double fragment.
Projectile fragment ke thotse ke le mo.
The fragment was found while I was alone,
Right.
but the projectile was in the company of Mhlahlo, which was
The projectile was found by Mhlahlo in your presence.
That is correct, my lord.
You saw him when he found it or discovered it.
There were the two of us. I saw him when he found it, my lord.
He's going to be testifying here. So your evidence is he did not plant it, because the cross-examination, as it's going, it appears that there is some problem.
So what I want, Suspect, what I want to say, Suspect, here is that with the two clips that we've played one clip where Captain Jali is saying that the procedures were not followed. Therefore, if the procedures were not followed, what does that mean? It means that the information there that went to court cannot be credible because it cannot account for the chain of custody. Now, that other clip we've heard today in a court proceeding, Rata says he has experience on the murder cases. Basically, he used to present the so-called ANC. So, okay, accused, those ANC member of PC, they were accused of killing people, and were defending them. But then now, this is what is interesting. At that time, it's like when he was defense attorneys there, during apartheid time, he didn't like the fact that OBs disappeared when they were questioning things. Now, when you're in a position of stopping that continuation of apartheid things where the state wants to hide something, they can say it just disappeared. He doesn't say that. He says, no, the defense must just get over it. These things, OPs do disappear. They've been disappearing since apartheid, like kind of like no judge did anything about it. So it was kind of like saying he's not going to be the first judge to do anything about it. So we must get a life and deal with the issues that the information is not there. These clips combine. They show us that all the exhibit that has been presented in court, Rata is not being seen as participating, where is calling people and saying, but this can't be true because this is what had happened. We need explanation. Where's your boss? Where did you record that your OP is lost? Where did you record when you were saying that there was this type of incident where you were with the person and then you did not record when the exhibit was found? When now are we in court without evidence? We're expected to believe the people when they're saying with their mouth, no, Mhlahlo found the bullet. Believe me. But when the accused person saying, I was beaten up, the car went to the car went to the engine garage. The police says no. Then the EVL says no, the car was in the garage. Then the judge keeps quiet when now the person is found. When the bosses of Mohane, they actually ask, Aibo, Mohane, Brigadier Gininda, Mohane was confronted. He said the car did not go to the engine garage. Gininda washed his hand. He says, you know what? I was not there, my lord. I cannot defend him on that. But he told me that he
is quiet about that.
But Rata is quiet about that. He's still praising all these witnesses that are actually fabricating, telling us stories.
In fact, what Rata is doing here, Rata is forcing the defense to prove that their clients are innocent, and is allowing the state to rely on non-existent evidence. In other words, is the other way around. For Rata here, it's not about the state proving their case beyond reasonable doubt. It's about the defense must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes, I think the first clip we played, you know, I always say this thing, we love defense so much that we criticize them when we feel like.
Yes.
But Tshololo did her best there. You see, as a defense attorney, once a key witness that talks about procedures, which has to do with the gun, yes. And that is something that Mnisi should have closed it. But Tshololo went on and says, but you are an exhibit clerk. Captain Mtshali says yes. And if he says, if then now there are two statements, that now you see that Mangena says he received it open. Regardless of what you say, Mtshali, but if Mangena says he received it open, what does it mean? Mtshali, it means that the chain of custody is broken. So it means that between whenever they, remember when Mangena says when he went to collect the gun in 2020, July 20, it means that the gun may have been on the SAP-13 since the time Roloff left it there in 2016. So there will have been 4 years that the gun may not be accounted for. So that gun, anything will have happened around that gun.
Anything. And what I want the masterminds to it must get in here. You must process it, and you must ask yourself, if we are going to allow the court to actually misuse the court's power to benefit the state, then we are actually the ones as South Africans who will be allowing ourselves to be convicted for crimes we never committed. Currently now it's not even about the 5 accused now. It's about our judiciary. If we don't defend our judiciary, we will find ourselves in the same situation. Because even a layman can tell you, how is it possible that someone can come and testify on behalf of another person? Then the judge say, no, it's not hearsay evidence. But there was a time when Mgomo Zulu was opposed, and Mgomo Zulu was asked by the same judge to say, if you're going to say you want this statement to be read in court, are you going to call those people to come and testify? But nowadays, Yininda is sitting, testifying on behalf of Absalom Zungu, testifying on behalf of Zungu, testifying on behalf of people.
All is there. You've just mentioned Zungu, Sispet. You've just mentioned Zungu. Let me remind, there's this clip here. It's a picture that shares that with Zungu, and the judge said nothing on this part. Remember this. Zungu said he went to buy alcohol at Phosphorus. When we look on the day, on that Sunday, the bottle store closed at 2 p.m. The spa that he went to, the pubs that he says he went to. But at the time, it was already 3:30. But the judge did not say anything, Suspect. I wanted to agree with you in what you are saying, that there is what Zungu now. But because you arrived in the hostel around 3 p.m., they drank and then they ran out of alcohol. Then
can I also just on that one also? Yes. But on the other hand, in Jabs, we are still putting it on the defense lawyers. The defense lawyers must challenge this evidence. But as I said, here we are giving South Africans the information that they've never gotten from anyone before. There you just confirmed it again about Zungu's times. There you just confirmed it again about Zungu's times. And the judge say absolutely nothing. Every time when the defense tried to oppose evidence, the judge said you went through those 60,000 pages. He read it. And he found this evidence in their 60,000 pages. And he's not saying anything about it. So now, we must be quiet, we must be silent, because he's a judge. He's a judge, and whatever he says goes. If he say that on Tuesday, Mnisi must be back and ready. The question that I want to ask myself, that I asked myself, I said, if we are wasting time, or if the defense lawyers, or if Mnisi is wasting time, whose time is he wasting? Is he wasting the judge's time? Is he wasting the court's time? Is he wasting Yininda's time? Or is he trying to make sure that whenever he comes back, he will be able to defend his client properly? Is it about time? Is it about a time frame here? Or is it about getting justice for Senzo Mlwa? Because I remember there was a time when Yininda was offered a few weeks, 6 weeks, to go and write exam. By the way, we are still wondering whether he did wrote the examination and whether he actually passed or failed, because I passed all my modules last year. Just this year I can't enroll. But the matter of the fact is, truth and justice, and that is what we are fighting for here in the house of the real mastermind. And Jabs, I'm going to stop it here. You can give our viewers a teaser of our next video that we are going to make, so that they can make sure that they subscribe, they share, and they like. This is the most important. They must like, subscribe, and share. They don't pay anything. And please, if you can, watch the ads, watch the entire ads. You are actually contributing financially to this channel by doing that, and by that way we can keep on bringing you this exclusive content. So Njabs, what is our next topic?
Yeah, no, we will actually continue with another clip on Mjali, basically when it's denying other things. So immediately after this one, we're actually going to record that, because the judge remained quiet, even if when Mjali had denied other things and saying, no, that thing should have not happened. But then Rata again went quiet when Mangena came through and says, but we had an expert who's the process owner of the SAP 13, who was here, denied this thing. He did not, Rata did not say to Mjali, are you saying that Mangena is lying? Because Mangena, they say on his statement that he received the bag from you open, and you are coming here to tell us that you never leave your store open. So we're going to be unpacking that thing shortly after this one's spent.
Thank you, Njab. See you in a bit. Bye-bye, Real Masterminds.